All right, so in the toxin project that we did in the chem unit, there was a big focus on the societal effect of your toxin and things like that. There isn't any societal part to this one. Okay, this is a strict research report on a plant of your choice. You can pick any plant you want. If you have no idea what plant you want to pick, do a Google search of cool or interesting plants and something will come up. Okay. The focus of this is that we want to look at the adaptations and structure of the plant you choose. Okay. In the context of the stuff we've talked about. Does it employ any tropisms? Okay, does it use a lot of geotropism or thigmotropism? Okay, does it have any special adaptations to conserving water or dealing with flooding? Okay, any special stuff that it does to transport water, things like that. So the stuff that we've talked about in class as it applies to the plant that you choose. Everyone kind of follow me there? Okay, all right. So it should include a couple of things. First off, it should include a description of the plant's native environment. Okay, what conditions does it experience in that environment? Does it live in the desert, or does it live in the tundra of the Arctic? Okay, what are the conditions there that it has to endure or be adapted to? Okay. What you'll talk about then, once you talk about the environment, is how is it adapted to that? So how does your plant grow? So a detailed description of how your plant grows, adapts, and deals with those conditions. So if you're looking at a cactus, it doesn't have any true leaves. It's covered in thorns. Thorns keep animals from eating it, okay? Because if it gets eaten, it'll lose water, and it wants to conserve water because it's in the desert. Okay, those kinds of are the connections, obviously in a little more detail than that, but that's kind of the thinking we want to go at. Okay, what are some tropisms that it might employ, if there's any one that it uses in particular more than anything else? Okay, what kind of root system does it have? Taproot or fibrous root? What does it look like? Okay. Its leaves, are they adapted? Do they have some weird shape? Do they provide some secondary function? Okay. The stem of the plant, again, all the things we talked about in this unit in terms of how do they apply to your chosen plant. Okay. If your plant has any special adaptations that prevent it from being eaten, damaged, or just plain survive, okay. Thorns on the cactus is the example we already used. Eucalyptus trees have a thick bark that insulates them against the heat of a fire, so they can actually survive being burned. Okay, things like that. Interesting adaptations that your plant might use. Some plants make a smell that attracts certain insects to help them pollinate. That's a special adaptation. Okay, like there's a plant called the corpse flower. It's sort of a plant. Okay, that smells like rotting meat because bugs are attracted to the smell of rotting meat, and so it brings in all these insects that can help transport its pollen. Okay, so things like that are special adaptations the plant might have. Okay, so in your project, report on the structure of your plant. Is it a flowering plant? Is it a conifer? Okay, so in terms of what we mean by that, a flowering plant, obviously anything that makes flowers and thus fruit. Okay, a conifer is something that produces cones. So pine trees and spruce trees are conifers. Okay, is it a moss, a grass? Okay, a liverwort, a hornwort, whatever it is you're going to look at. Okay, what are its specific needs in terms of light, water, soil, nutrients? Okay, so does it need rocky soil, sandy soil? Okay, what kind of soil does it usually like? Okay, describe the conditions your plant has to be able to survive. We already talked about that. Okay, and how does it do that? Use your knowledge of plant structure, growth, and development to illustrate how your plant species is unique and adaptive. Okay. In terms of growth, development, and life cycle, be specific. Describe how your plant is seeded. Okay, so is it like, tiny little seeds like a dandelion that can blow on the wind, or is it something that puts its seeds inside a giant fruit that would, have to be eaten, and then the seeds have to pass through the digestive tract of an animal before they can germinate? Okay, because there's actually some trees back down in South America, I believe is where they are. They're going to go extinct because the dodo, which is a type of bird, went extinct, and the seeds of this plant could only germinate after the dodo had eaten the fruit and digested the fruit, and essentially their digestive tract would peel the covering off the seed. Okay, so the seeds can't germinate unless they go through the digestive tract of this specific bird. Since this bird is extinct, those trees will go extinct too. Okay, so that's like one of those weird kind of relationships. Okay, so describe how it's seeded, what conditions may be necessary. Describe its growth. Is it slow growing or quick growing? Okay, if we're talking about like a giant redwood, then obviously that's a slow growth cycle. If we're talking about a dandelion, it's a matter of weeks and it's gone from a sprout to mature and seeded itself and died. Okay, describe whether your plant is an annual, a perennial, evergreen, or deciduous. Okay, so if something is an annual, how long does it grow for? 1 year. 1 year and 1 year only. Tomatoes are an annual. Okay, most of the stuff you grow in your garden is an annual. Okay, a perennial grows back every year. So like a poplar tree would be an example of a perennial. Okay, if it's evergreen, it doesn't lose its leaves. If it's deciduous, it does. Okay, so deciduous means loses its leaves. Evergreen means it doesn't. So trees in the tropical rainforest would be evergreen. Spruce trees are evergreen. Okay, but poplar trees are deciduous. Okay, environmental influences, we talked about this already. What are the conditions in the plant's environment? How does it affect its tissues? Are there parasitic organisms that might try to infect it? Okay, how does it resist or fight those? Is fire, flooding, drought, freezing, etc. a concern? How is your plant adapted to survive or reproduce after those events? Okay, there should be lots of visual aids. Find pictures. Okay, pictures of the plant, diagrams of its life cycle. Okay, graphs of its growth or something. Have lots of visual aids in here. Okay, and then same as before, we need to cite our references properly. That did not happen very well in the toxin project. Okay, people either forgot entirely to cite their references or just put down a URL. www.ididn'tlistentoCoderre-when-he-explained-what-to-do.com. Okay, we don't want to have that. Okay, we want to have them in the proper format. So for a website, which is probably what you're going to use, okay, name of the author first, date the article was posted, or the last day the site was updated, whichever you can find. Okay, the name of the article, okay, the name of the website, then the URL, and the day you accessed it and looked at it. That is the information that you need to find and put into your bibliography. Okay, this one here should have at least 5 references. Okay, and that includes any site you take a picture from. Right? If you take a picture from a website, that's a reference. You used something from that website, cite the website you took the picture from. Okay, like realistically, if you have less than 10 references, you didn't look very hard for anything. Okay, 5 is like the bare minimum. Most of the time, people have between 8 and 15 different references. Okay, don't just go to Wikipedia and go, oh, I'm just going to use everything from here because Wikipedia is crap anyway. Okay, all right. Same as in the toxin project, I want to see planning. And the planning includes the same things. I want to see a timeline. Everybody has to have a timeline, right? So telling me the days you work on it or plan to work on it or whatever. If you forget to do that and it's the night before, fake it, okay? Put down when you thought you worked on it, okay? So have that in there. And then either a outline of your project. So, on slide 1 or paragraph 1, I'm going to talk about this. Slide 2 or paragraph 2, I'm going to talk about this. Or a thought web, okay, where you just have, spruce tree and then all your ideas coming off. Either one of those is fine. Everybody has a timeline and one or the other of the outline or thought web, whichever makes more sense to your thinking type. Okay, so that's 5 marks. It's a pretty easy 5 marks. Okay, but we had a lot of people who lost those 5 marks because they just didn't do it on the last one. Okay, so format, I've put in there 2 different options for you. There's a Google Sheet, or sorry, there's a Google Doc, sorry, or a Google Slides presentation that's like PowerPoint. Okay, so you can do yours either way. Okay, I don't have a preference for which way you do it, whichever way makes more sense to you. Okay, so the scope of this project is that you're getting 3 class periods to work on it. Okay, 3 full ones. Essays should be between 1,200 and 1,600 words. Right, that's about the same length. I said the minimum on the toxin project was 800, but if you did only 800, it wasn't going to be very good. Okay, between 1,200 and 1,600 will do a very good job of this report. Okay, to give you an idea, 1,500 words is roughly a page and a half in Google Docs in 12-point font with 1-inch margins, single spaced. Okay, it's about a page and a half. It's not an excessive amount of material. You do not need to write a graduate level thesis state for this. Okay, just a report on your plant. All right, your project will be evaluated in the same 5 categories as before. 5 marks for planning, 5 marks for your analysis and interpretation, the information that you put in there about your plant. Okay, 5 marks for your communication. If your whole report is a bulleted list of points, that's not going to go well for communication. I want to see some connections between your ideas, okay, some flow to your report, okay, no spelling mistakes and grammar and stuff like that. If your project is a 1,600 word sentence, don't laugh. I've seen it. Okay, the whole essay started with a capital and ended with a period, and there were no other capitals and periods. It's the craziest thing I ever saw. Okay, so that's part of the communication mark. Make sure that when I read it, it sounds like a 15 or 16-year-old wrote it, and there's some good technical information in there. Okay, then your research and investigation. So that's your references. There should just be a page at the end. Here's my references. Here's the author's name. Here's the date it was posted, name of the article, name of the website, the URL, and the day I accessed it. All of that for your references, all on one page. Okay, and then overall is just the overall impression and quality of your assignment. Okay, so that's where things like your visual aids comes in. Okay, how many pictures did you put in, and were they pertinent, or were you just like finding crap to put in there? Okay, again, to do with flow and the, kind of the level of detail and things like that. That's all in the overall part. Okay, if when I read your assignment it sounds like my 8-year-old could have written it, then I'm going to be less impressed. Okay, everybody follow the expectations for this. All right, then I won't keep you from getting it done any longer. Okay, you'll have today and 2 days next week, full class periods to work on it.